Hey, it's the Route 20 guy. I'm sure many of you have driven on many highways, seen many different types of markers out there, and have just zoomed right by, not stopping to figure out what they actually say or what they mean or what they indicate. Now, there's a lot of markers out there, but this one here is kind of special. It's dedicated to Henry Knox, and there are many of them across Massachusetts and New York State. So let's find out what they mean. Henry Knox was a Boston bookseller with no formal military training, but in his bookshop he had many books on military history and actions, and he read a lot of those books and learned a lot just by reading. At the onset of the American Revolution in Lexington, Massachusetts, Knox and his wife fled Boston and left his bookstore behind, which was later destroyed. He helped in many battles early on, including the Battle of Bunker Hill. When General George Washington arrived in Cambridge to take command of the Continental Army, he immediately met with Knox. General Washington was very impressed with Knox's actions at the Battle of Bunker Hill, and through connections with Samuel Adams, soon became a very close confidant of Washington. As battles were raging on, history tells us that General Knox knew of the capture of cannons at Fort Ticonderoga on Lake Champlain in New York State. He then suggested to General Washington that he travel to Fort Ticonderoga to bring back the cannons, which would then give the Continental Army an advantage over the British Army. He left Cambridge on December 5, 1775. The trip was expected to only take 2 weeks, but almost after a month, nobody had heard of him. The trip took a lot longer, about 6 weeks in total. The winter of 1775-76 came on very early. Rivers were iced over and roadways, luckily, were frozen and were not very muddy. Soon, people down the Hudson River, over the Berkshire Mountains, and then along the old Boston Post Road saw Henry Knox leading oxen carrying cannon from Fort Ticonderoga. As he got closer to the Boston area, he did have to take some side roads to avoid detection. Luckily, he arrived in Cambridge. With the cannons he captured, the Continental Army could fortify Dorchester Heights, which was still under control of the Continental Army. This then led to a siege on Boston and forced the British out of the city of Boston. That day is called Evacuation Day, still in the state of Massachusetts. Henry Knox is credited with bringing 59 cannons back. In 1926, the 150th anniversary of his expedition, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and along with New York State, decided to commemorate that anniversary by placing these monuments along his original journey. The granite monument depicts a bronze plaque of Knox with the oxen carrying the cannon. In New York State, a different plaque was used and engraving, but the message is still the same. The Knox Trail is not an official name for the highway itself, but it has been celebrated for 94 years. You can find these markers in every historic Route 20 town, from Watertown all the way to Westfield. There are a few towns that don't have it, and that's because the highway was moved in the 1930s. The story of Henry Knox is one of the reasons why this road is so historic in nature and aptly gets the name Historic Route 20. If you enjoyed this video, please like it below and subscribe to our channel. Also check out our social media listed below here, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and on Patreon. We appreciate your support and look forward to the next video.